Hey guys, Collin Chi, certified nutritional consultant, numerologer, bringing you guys another talk today. Today I'm going to be doing Adolf Hitler's numerology chart, folks. I'm going to be talking about his life path, his destiny number, his soul urge number, his personality number. I'm going to do his pinnacles. This is going to be the all-around comprehensive numerology chart. I'm also going to talk about his astrology a lot, a little bit about tarot, some other influences here, but it's going to be awesome. This is in no way an attempt to assuage the monstrosities that this guy inflicted upon people, but it's mainly just to give you a characterization of who this guy was numerologically and astrologically. It's up to you to think any further than that. But it's going to be awesome, so let's get started, folks. Here we go. Okay. Adolf Hitler. The notorious Adolf Hitler. Okay, 1, 4, 6, 3, 6, 8, 9, 2, 3, 5, 9. This is a 2, this is a 9. His destiny number is equal to a number 11. Okay? Destiny number 11. Hopefully you can see that. Before I jump into that number 11, today is 4/13, I think, today. Hopefully. 2016. It's a number 4 day. I think today's the 13th. Yeah, today's the 13th. Number 4 day. Now, Hitler, before I jump into this, Hitler is a Taurus sun. He is a Capricorn, Capricorn moon. He's a Libra ascendant. And he's a Leo midheaven or medium coeli. Okay, these are some big influences. He's actually Taurus, Libra, and Leo dominant. So you got Venus, and Sun. Okay, he's also mostly dominated by fixed aspects, fixed qualities in astrology, which is there's fixed, there's cardinal, and then there's mutable. He's mostly fixed, which is giving him a little bit of a rigid mindset, a fixed mindset. So primarily fixed, primarily well, he has no water. Okay, no water in his chart, none. That's interesting. I'm going to talk about it. It kind of gives this guy a little bit lacking in the nurturing qualities, a little bit lacking in emotions, a little bit controlled and hidden in his emotions and sensitivity. Because there's no water. Water represents all those things, intuition, etc. This guy is also southwest. This marker sucks right now. Southwest predominant. Which is more his actions. It's more about action and extroversion, and the southern hemisphere in astrology is more about action, things in the public, things in the spotlight, an outer life, things with other people, things of that nature, as opposed to more introverted and Southwest is more of social life as opposed to an introverted life if you're in the north hemisphere predominantly. Another really interesting thing is he's got his sun is in the 7th house, okay, of the zodiac. Sun in the 7th, okay. Hopefully you can see that. Sun in the 7th I'm going to talk a lot about. That's really interesting because it really gives this guy this the sun represents ego, individuality. It represents vitality. It represents expression. It represents creativity. It represents your will, your power, your assertiveness. It represents your pride. It represents yourself, really, more than anything. Sun in the seventh. Seventh is kind of the opposite of the first house. The first house is where the sun is, in Aries, where the sun is in a good spot in the zodiac. Sun in the seventh, it's kind of debilitated because you're born in evening time. The sun is going down. The sun is setting at that time. So sun is going into the lower or darker realm, the darkness. So the sun is not really respected. The ego is not as respected. This can create very much a dictator, a dominant person who really wants to show other people his authority and show how awesome he is, and say no, and demands respect, because the ego and the self and all these sun qualities are not respected. The self-esteem, sun represents your self-esteem. So if it's not respected, then you're going to overcompensate to try and demand respect and demand that you be heard and demand that your authority be heard. Sun is authority. So a lot of things going on astrologically. But let's jump into numerology here, folks. And we'll go back and forth between all this stuff, all right? So 11, destiny number. Okay? Destiny number. The destiny number is really, basically the destiny number is what your soul set out to accomplish before leaving Earth. Okay? So 11 is justice. It's the tarot card justice. It's also the tarot card strength or force. Okay? It's also Libra. It is a transition number. Okay? Transition. Because it's a portal, it's a gateway. It's a very interesting number. It has the double one. One is the sun. It also has the 2 because 1 plus 1 equals 2. 2 is emotion, sensitivity, being balanced, being receptive, being intuitive. Low self-esteem is number 2 also. But number 1, the double 1 here is really craves leadership. Okay. It's ambitious. Now this is a master number. Okay, master numbers. There's a very high demand if you're a master number. You have to live up to a very high standard. You have to meet high expectations. You have a lot of struggles in life that you have to go through. It's purifying you in order to become this master. Okay, It can be difficult. It can be a very responsible. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with a master number because you have this higher fate, this extra spiritual lesson, extra special lesson to learn as a master number. So number 11 is fame. It's invention. Okay, inventive. It's very much the spotlight. It is. It's change. It's, I see within the 1, I see the sun. I see the moon with the 1 and the 2. I see Uranus as well. I see with the humanitarianness, the spirituality. I also see Saturn because the age 29, when you have your Saturn return, I see some influence of Saturn here. I also see Venus because these guys are creative and they're artistic and they really want to express and they need to follow their higher inspiration. These are great speakers. Okay, these are excellent speakers. These guys are the inspirational speaker, the religious leader. Okay, religion. Okay. Now, when you see justice here and all these, and fairness and Libra qualities, Saturn and Capricorn is also law, but Libra is also law. You see that this could go either way, that this person has a great sense of fairness, or it could go the opposite to where they use that fairness or they use the law inappropriately. In Hitler's case, this was the case. And actually, if you have the tarot card justice show up and it's actually inverted, if you have an inverted tarot card, you have the opposite of fairness. You have unfairness. You're unfair. You're severe application of the law. You're just number 11 in Auschwitz, the concentration camp, the main concentration camp Auschwitz. Number 11 was the torture room. Okay, there's this element of either fairness or unfairness, either proper application of the law, or if it's inverted, improper application of the law. Okay, so you have all these things with number 11. Okay, there's a lot going on here with number 11. It's a portal. It's a gateway. It's very heavy, because of Saturn, double one coming down. Saturn is heavy. I find that people see 11s in their 29th year a lot, because 2 + 9 is 11. Again, the Saturn return. Saturn is bearing down on you, breaking your ego down. It's just it's a high intensity with 11. Okay, any master number brings a more intense vibration. So you see a lot going on here. Okay. Again, leadership. These guys need to learn patience, but they also need to learn, because they're not that patient, and they also need to learn to make quick decisions. Okay, because 11 Libra is also decision. 11 is also the advertiser, so you can see propaganda. It's refinement. It's learning balance. Okay, because 2 is balance. 1 and 1, you have to learn to balance the spiritual and the material, among other things. These guys can be teachers, very much counselors. These guys can be counselors. All kinds of things. The missionary. They're also oversensitive. Okay. It's courageous, and as far as fame and public spotlight, okay, you see that with Southwest predominating in his astrology. Okay, he's actually, like I said, Taurus, Libra, Leo dominant. You see the Libra there. You see some Venus in this 11 with the creative qualities, that these guys can be writers and inventors, and they're pretty talented. They can be aviators. You see some Aquariusness here as well, some Uranus. Like I said, spirituality. These guys are idealistic. Bunch of things going on there. Okay. You could potentially put this on either the physical plane with the number 1, or you could also put it on the emotional plane with the number 2, but you could even also put it on the, mind plane, because there's a lot of things going on here. So there's that. Let's see. He was born. Let's see. When was he born? 4/20. For you stoners out there, that's interesting. Born on 4/20, 1889. Okay. So you got 4, 2, 8, which is equal to a number 5. Okay, number 5. Number 5, life path number. All right, so we got some number 5. I also want to mention that number 1 and number 4. Number 1's his first vowel. Number 4 is his first consonant. That's interesting. I'll talk about that a little bit. His hidden passions are 3 and 9. Okay, I'll get to those. But number 5, ruled by Mercury. Okay, number 5 goes in every direction. It's the researcher. It's scattered. Number 5 is the Hierophant or Hierophant in tarot, which is basically the high priestess in some way. He's basically the spiritual physician, the master of mystery. Okay, but primarily 5 is freedom, travel, and change. Okay, free, travel, change. A lot of dynamism going on, a lot of changes going on in life, a lot of traveling going on. These people need freedom very much. They can't stand to be boxed in. They like to go everywhere and do what they want. Number 5 is ruled by, again, Mercury. So you got thinking, you got writing, you got speaking. Again, you could see a speaker here, a speaker here. Hitler was known for his impressive speeches, for his emotive and persuasive speeches, and his very passionate speeches. Number 5 is passion. Number 5 is competitive. Number 5 is addiction prone. It's the 5 senses. He was somewhat addicted in some ways to drugs at some point in his life, and also to the women. He was very possessive with the women in his life, especially his half niece that was, I think, 19 at the time, or like 19 years younger than him or something when they had a relationship. Very, very possessive. Didn't let her go anywhere, do anything. Number 5 isn't as possessive as, say, number 6 or number 2 probably. But, there's some potential there because of the addiction. These guys are all about purification. They can be hyperactive. Number 5 is on the emotional plane. Again, if you boil down the 11 to a number 2, that's on the emotional plane, or it could also be on the physical plane. Emotions potentially here. He lacks emotion to some degree with the moon in Capricorn. It gives some coldness to his emotions and hiding his emotions and controlling, tight control over his emotions. The lack of water, not very much emotion. Yet we're going to see that he's actually got some emotion in his chart. Number 5 is also kind of Libra too, because number 5 is very much in the middle of the number sequence, 1 through 9. There's 4 numbers preceding number 5, 4 numbers after number 5. So you see the middle of the zodiac, you see both sides of situations. You can be indecisive, and you can just, it's considered the most balanced number because it sees both sides. What else? Just a bunch of things. It's nervous, it's fidgety, hyperactive, again, mental, thinker, researcher. You can see some art, some creative, some philosophy. Very much about sensitive expression of the emotions. These guys crave expression. These guys, 11 needs to be aware not to let fame go to their head, which actually happened to Hitler, it seems like. Fame definitely went to his head. Again, with the advertiser here, you could see propaganda possibly. These guys are rebellious. What else? With the Master of Mystery, he was somewhat interested in the occult, for sure, but he's also got a lot of orthodoxy and conservativeness in his chart too. Taurus being conservative and orthodox, and we'll see a number 8 later that's a little bit more orthodox and conservative. But number 5, again, the 5 senses, intuitive. These guys are impatient. These guys are definitely impatient. But he joined the Vril Society, which is more of an occult kind of. I think he was also involved in the Thule Society. It's more of an occult thing, but he comes at occultism from an orthodox kind of way, and he's not convinced until he does his own research, which we'll get into. Refinement, bunch of things like that. Let's do personality number, which is from the consonants of the name, which is equal to a number 8. In Hitler's case, okay, number 8 is money, power, and authority. Okay. Number 8 is also they can be ruthless. They can be greedy. Taurus can definitely be greedy on the negative side. And Taurus can be very possessive on the negative side. Greedy, money, power. This guy craved power. This is his personality, okay? Personality number. So outwardly, this is organized, it's efficient, it's critical. 8 is the double zero, or it's also the double square. Its structure, its organization, its will. It's ruled by the sun as well as Saturn, especially Saturn here. Saturn is limitation, it's frustration. But these guys are the CEOs, they're the bosses, they're the leaders. Okay, leadership, very ambitious. Okay, ambition. Authority, the authoritarian. His father was very authoritarian. And I also want to mention that Adolf Hitler would have been born Adolf Schicklgruber, okay, which I'm going to talk about later. His father, Alois Hitler, changed his name from Alois Schicklgruber to the family name Hitler about 13 years before Hitler was born. So that would have changed Hitler's destiny to some degree, and some other things, which I find interesting. But his father was authoritarian. He was he didn't want Hitler to be an artist. Hitler in his lifetime, he was an artist. He was a singer. He was a painter. He was a great speaker. Obviously, he was the dictator, the leader. He was the socialist, the anti-communist. A whole bunch of things this guy was. But these are the big things that his personality was. So, the dictator, they can be dictatorial. The 8 is very emotionally controlled. They're sympathetic to some degree, but they hide their sensitivities and they hide their sympathy. They can be domineering. They're all about career. This is strength. Okay? 8 is also the strength card in tarot. 11 can be the strength card or force. So you see force and strength. However you want to apply that. Responsibility, again, the boss. These guys can be selfish, ruthless, proud and stubborn. So you see the number 1 there. Definitely intolerant and somewhat impatient, yet they're also determined to get what they want. They're the builder. Whole bunch of things. So again, you've got Mercury over here. You've got Saturn over here. Okay, Saturn. You got Libra, but you got a bunch of things here, so I'm not going to put any particular thing there. So he is actually Sun, Venus, and Mercury dominant. Okay, he's Sun, Venus, in that order. Okay, according to his astrology, Sun, Mercury, Sun, Venus, and then Mercury. So you see the Mercury, you see the Sun, the A, number 1, leading off his name, that's the Sun. Okay. You see the Sun with his midheaven in Leo. Midheaven is kind of your status, your reputation, where you're headed towards career-wise in your chart. He's headed towards that Leo quality of the Sun rules Leo. Okay, the proud, dignified. You can see him looking dignified in his speeches. It's self-assured. Okay. There's very much a lot of self-confidence and self-assuredness. Okay, these guys are pretty self-assured. Number 8. With a master number, you could see how you would be self-assured. With all the Leo and the Sun that we're going to see, very much some overconfidence and overcompensation, but yet also somewhat of a low self-esteem because of the 7th house, and somewhat of a low self-esteem because of his day number, which I'll go into here. So anyway, let's continue here. A whole bunch of things going on. I don't have enough room here, so let's get into, let's do this before I jump into all that other stuff. And we'll continue. So this is the Pythagorean birth chart. Let's put the numbers down here as we need them. Number 1, he's got 2 8s there. I wish this marker was working well. He's got a 9. He's got 2 here and a 4. Okay, so predominantly the emotional plane. Emotions. He's got the double 8, right? Double 8. That's H. Heil Hitler. Okay, Hail Hitler. That's 88. The number of Hitler, right? He's got the double 8 right there in his Pythagorean birth chart. Okay, the double 8. You're talking about all these 8 qualities we talked about and trying to, you basically with double 8 you have a lot of 5 and you have 8. That's really what the double 8 is. As far as the qualities, 8 is very discriminatory. Okay, you're talking about discrimination of the Jews, but they're very perceptive and they have great perceptive and analytical and critical abilities to perceive things and perceive situations, and they definitely crave travel. They need travel to not be frustrated, the double 8. And then you have that, that potential to become too domineering and too dictatorial, because they're so, because they can have overconfidence, because they have such an ability at attention to detail and discriminatory powers. Discrimination, not just in the race sense of the word, but discriminate between, different aspects of life and different people, things like that. So that's interesting. We got the Heil Hitler. We got the 88 right there. It's insane. Okay, the Nazi number for Hitler, because Heil Hitler. Okay, so that's interesting. We see that right there. It's a more intense version of 8 in some ways. With that, it also brings. Also, what's interesting is the D. Okay, the D, his first consonant, number 4, is very much discrimination. Okay, so you see discrimination here, powers of discrimination here. In metal detecting, you discriminate between different metals. You can change the level of discrimination between what metals you want to exclude from your search and what metals you want to include in your search. So, that's kind of gives you another idea about discrimination. Setting aside the ones you don't want, like the Jews, and focusing on what you want. Okay. Number 4 is focused and determined. Number 4 is work structure and organization. Practical, determined. The builder. Okay, the architect also, if you're talking about building, Hitler had this grandiose architectural vision that they drew up these plans for and made models for of huge buildings, and to really show the glory and the dignified, the Leo of Germany, right? He really wanted the German people to regain their sense of pride. He was a socialist for Germany. Even though he was actually born in Austria, he developed this national pride for Germany. And he was very influenced by the people that were around him, especially with a lot of the 7th house stuff going on that he had, house of other people. And since I'm on that, the 7th house, because it's the house of other people, and because your sun is there, I want to mention a little bit more about, because your sun is there in astrology in the 7th house, you can have this thought that your fate, that you are not necessarily in control of your fate, that you may believe more in fate if you have sun in the 7th. Okay, Carl Jung had sun in the 7th. Hitler, you may believe a little bit more in astrology and fate, because there's so many other influences, because the house of other people, so many other influences that are shaping your character, and your personality and yourself, and changing, and unforeseen circumstances changing the direction of your destiny and your life, because the sun, because the self, the ego, because it's in that seventh house, that you can think, oh, everything, it's all fate, like, and so you could also see yourself as fated to be this great dictator leader and to lead Germany into greatness, like this guy did. Well, he didn't lead into greatness, he led it into depravity, but he thought he was leading it into greatness. He was very deluded, and out of his mind and insane. And on that note, I actually want to mention 1889 was the year that Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche went insane in 1889, the year that Hitler was born. And Nietzsche wrote The Will to Power, right? Okay, this freaking marker's failing me right now. He wrote Will to Power. Okay, you're talking about power, the sun, craving power, his personality. Okay, Nietzsche, he wrote, and the Nazis actually adopted a lot of Nietzsche's ideas in some ways and kind of turned them into their own ideas. Kind of misread them a little bit and converted them into more harsh Nazi-ish kind of rhetoric, but they definitely used some of his ideas, about the Ubermensch, the Superman, things that Nietzsche wrote about. And Nietzsche actually went insane and collapsed in 1889. 1889 is the number 8 year. You're talking about Saturn. Number 8 is Saturn here. You see a little bit of Saturn here. Even though he's got these dominants, I do see some Saturn here. And number 8, Saturn is a very heavy, intense, difficult to deal with vibration. People often kill themselves under the influence of Saturn. People often die under the time frame or influence of the planet Saturn. It's very much frustration. It's breaking down the ego. It's making you face reality. It's going to change your life in a lot of ways when there's a heavy Saturn transit. There's going to be a new direction, new things you're going to have to accept. You're going to have to accept that you're not the greatest, and that you got to, all your illusions will be broken down, and now you got to come to reality and make some changes. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to handle that Saturn. So Nietzsche, in the year of Saturn, number 8, went insane, collapsed, and he was running through the streets, I guess, saying he was the tyrant of Torino and that he was a god among men. And then he ended up collapsing, and that was 1889. He wrote The Will to Power. We're talking about power right there. Interesting stuff, man. Very, very interesting. Also, this guy has an arrow here. Okay, he's got the arrow of the Inquirer. All right, so the arrow of the Inquirer. Let me erase that so I have a little space here. Okay. Arrow of the Inquirer. Now this is considered an arrow of weakness because the numbers are missing here in this chart. But this is a person that is very skeptical. Okay, they're inquiring, they're researching, but they're very skeptical initially, and they research initially from a place of orthodoxy and conservativeness. So again, you see more conservative with the arrow of Inquirer. It's more orthodoxy. They come from that place, and they're very skeptical about things initially, but once they research and convince themselves of a certain thing, it becomes almost like a what was the word? I had a specific word. A dogmatic convert. Okay, very dogmatic. Okay, once they convince themselves of a certain thing. These guys also kind kind of have a narrow mind to some degree because of that orthodoxy. And the deeper philosophical aspects of human life are sometimes neglected with this arrow. So somewhat of a narrow mindset in some ways, and a fixed mindset, like I said, with the fixed quality dominating. He's also angular. He's got angular domination, and when you're talking about astrology, which is basically more cardinal qualities, which is leadership and initiating and pioneering and starting things and action and doing and practical stuff. So angular dominant in astrology. So again, skeptical. Again, there was a lot of occultism behind, and even he had a personal astrologer. He was in the Vril Society. There was definitely a lot of occultism, and these guys believed some pretty wacky ideas about the hollow earth. In the Vril Society, I think these guys were influenced by some of the Eastern Tibetans in the Himalayas and stuff, that they believed that there was this underground society of, elites and whatnot that ruled the world in the hollow earth. They believed some crazy stuff. Not that it isn't true, because I don't know, but, I have an open mind about these things, but yeah, so you see that there. I forget, I was going somewhere with that, but now I don't know where, because there's too many ideas. This chart's very complicated. A lot of ideas going through my head right now about this freak. So we got a bunch of that going on there. I guess I'm gonna erase some of this stuff so I can continue. Hopefully you got some of that. So we got some more core numbers to do yet before I can put his core numbers up here, but I'll put the main ones so far. Core number, one of them is number 5, the other is 11. It's about 40% of you, number 5, about 30% of you, number 11. And then the other two numbers we're about to do is going to complete his core numbers here. So let's do the soul urge, which is from the vowels in the name, which is equal to number 3, I believe. Yep, number 3, soul urge number. Okay, this is the hidden motivation of a person. Okay, this is what you're inwardly motivated by and for. Number 3 is ruled by Jupiter. Number 3 is kind of like Jupiter, like Sagittarius mixed with Gemini. Okay, it's very much Mercury and Jupiter. So number 3 is creativity, communication, intellect. Okay, this is the thinker, this is logic, this is planning, this is scattered, this is childlike, this is need for expression, expressing yourself. Sun in 7th house can limit some of the self-expression. Again, his father didn't want him to be an artist, even though his mother encouraged it. And I want to talk about, too, some of the ideas that this guy thought, some of the things that gave this guy the idea that he was so special. I'm going to talk about some of the other astrological aspects that he's got. So, before I jump into the other astrological aspects, let me finish this off. But the idea that he was special because, and it's apparent in his astrology, which I'm going to go through at some point when I'm done with some of this. Basically, when he was a child, a number of his siblings all basically died, except for him. So his mother kind of doted on him and made him think he was special in a lot of ways because he was the only survivor. That was one instance. where this guy's chosen to survive. He's the chosen one in some ways. So it gives you some ideas of arrogance, and I'm so special, and I have this, and too much confidence, even though really I have low self-esteem and low confidence somewhere inside. I also have all this Leo, this proud, dignified, I'm the greatest kind of overconfidence with this guy. And that's one thing that caused that. The other thing is he almost drowned in a river or a lake, and a priest actually saved him. So he thought about becoming a priest at some point even. So another instance of like near death, and he escaped death again there. He escaped death with all his siblings dying around him. He escaped death with almost drowning, the priest saving him. And then in the war, he was in World War I as a soldier, so he was a warrior. He was, the sun. Aries, the warrior, Mars. In World War I, he actually came across this British soldier at one point. I don't even think he had a rifle or anything. The British soldier did, but I think Hitler didn't, or Hitler was incapacitated or something, and he was just standing there. And this British soldier came up to him in the woods. They were both alone, and the British soldier didn't shoot him, didn't fire at him, just kept walking along, looked right at him. They looked at each other for a minute, and then the guy just kept walking, didn't kill him, even though Hitler wasn't ready and Hitler didn't have a rifle or whatever. And so again, he escaped death. Plus, in the war, he incurred an injury to his genitals and his abdomen, so he lost a testicle. His penis was probably half shot off, and some people think he had micro penis already to begin with, which could have created this dictatorial guy, because he was like, also trying to overcompensate because he maybe had a small penis. It's speculated, nobody really knows. But then if you get your penis shot off, it's like you'd be pretty pissed off. He got denied, his art got denied by a university in Vienna that he applied to twice. He wanted to be an artist, sent in applications, his art got denied. That changed his destiny in some way. So he didn't get to go to art school. And then in the war, he gets his freaking penis shot at. These are contributing factors, I'm sure, to driving this guy insane, although he was probably insane from the get-go. Being that he has no water in his chart, that can create a pretty interesting character to begin with. So, he's got predominantly earth. Earth is also unemotional, like having no water is a less emotional person. Earth signs are a little bit less emotional than average. So these ideas that he was special were reinforced by, and then he got the Iron Cross, I think once or twice. He was injured, and then while he was injured, basically, the war ended. The Treaty of Versailles was striked, and and Hitler saw it, and a lot of Germans saw it as a stab in the back by the Jews, or a stab in the back by their own people. And this really outraged Hitler, and he wanted, because he loved being a soldier, and there was no task that he wasn't up to as a soldier. And he loved being in the military, and then all of a sudden it was taken away because, the Germans, relinquished. Can't think of the word right now. There's so many words in my head. They forfeited the war. So, that specialness, that idea of specialness was kind of encouraged in some way, that I'm the chosen one because of all these circumstances, that happened. So I thought that was interesting, and I wanted to mention it. So back into this, number 3, creative communication, intellect, Jupiter and Mercury. I see number 3 again. Number 3 is also impatient and intolerant. Okay, like a lot of those other numbers we mentioned, number 8, number 5. But they also have this air of superiority, and they're also lucky, because Jupiter is luck. Okay, number 5 can sometimes be considered luck. So this guy is lucky in some ways that he escaped these things, right? So you have luck here. And you also, I think, have luck with the sun in the 7th. Some people think is you have luck with the law, because 7th house, Libra, you're talking about justice and law to some degree. You have luck with the law, which he actually kind of did, because he did this beer hall pushed, or P-U-T-S-C-H, I don't know how to pronounce it in German, where basically he was going to try and assume power and try and take over power of Germany by this raid upon the government and stuff. Beer hall pushed. And he only got thrown in jail for 1 year. And he killed all these, he was responsible for, a number of deaths in that, I think like 90 people or maybe like 30 people. It was significant. It wasn't, anything like, it wasn't just like one person happened to accidentally like get injured or something. It was like 30 people or something like that. And he was lucky because he was only in jail for a year. Again, he escaped, this thing. You're talking about jail, you're talking about imprisonment, you're talking about Pisces. I don't know what kind of Pisces influences he has here. I didn't look into every single thing about this guy. I looked into as much as I possibly could, though. So he was in prison, and that's when he wrote his book, Writing, Mercury. Okay? That's what he wrote his book, My Struggle, Mein Kampf. Okay? My struggle, the I. Leo, I will. Okay, Taurus, I have. Okay? I. This is on the more I side of the number sequence. Number 3. Okay. So, what else can we do? Let's move on. His day number. Okay, so Soul Urge is the next core number. So you got number 3 there. 5, 11, and 3 so far as core numbers. His day number, 20, is equal to a number 2. Okay, these are considered your gifts and talents, okay? Number 2 is persuasion. He was a master, obviously, of cooperation and persuasion to some degree in order to get to where he got to in life, to ascend the ranks and assume power and take over the power. He did this enabling act when he was finally, when he persuaded Hindenburg's son, I think it was Hindenburg's son, to convince the then president in Germany, Hindenburg, his father, to let Hitler become chancellor. And finally, he agreed. Hindenburg's son, and the president Hindenburg didn't initially trust Hitler, but then Hitler convinced Hindenburg's son to let him be chancellor. And then once he was chancellor, he enacted this enabling law, which basically said that he could do whatever he wanted and suspend the Constitution of Germany. And then once the president Hindenburg died, then he just did whatever the hell he wanted, because he could, as chancellor with that enabling act, he could do whatever he wanted. But number 2, cooperation, is the peacemaker. Peacemaker. Cooperation. Co-op. Okay. Partnership. Emotions. Okay. It's low self-esteem is number 2. But these guys are artistic also. They're imaginative. This is ruled by the moon. So, again, with 3, you see a lot of creativity. Okay, Venus. You see some Venus here. You see with the Libra being dominant in his chart. The guy was an artist, He loved Disney. He loved the Old West, the Wild West. He loved... he really gathered a lot of cultural artifacts and stole a lot of cultural artifacts, and when he was invading every freaking country, he was taking all the art, and he wanted to make all these museums. He actually wanted to make a museum for the extinct race that the Jews were going to be under his dictatorship. He gathered all these Jewish artifacts. The guy was into art and creativity, and poetry and all that kind of Venusian feeling, kind of emotional stuff, sensitive and affectionate kind of stuff. And he was very possessive of his women. He was very probably sensual in his own right. He had some weird, some people think he had some pretty weird sexual appetites with like being into women defecating on him and weird shit. But where, you know, 2 is also the extremes, kind of going between 2 different extremes. You know, you're up and then you're way down. And, you know, he was very moody. Number 2, the moon is moodiness, emotions, you know. But he was good at cooperation, obviously. He made alliances with Italy and, you know, a couple other places. He was persuasive enough to get to where he wanted to get to, which was horrible for the rest of mankind. But, yeah. So there's that there. So that's interesting. You also see with the low self-esteem, Saturn in Leo, his Saturn is in Leo, which kind of can show some low self-esteem and a strong need for recognition. Okay, you got these people are tactful, also diplomatic. The Earth Mother, okay, Earth. We see that Earth is his dominant element at 46%, right? Number 2 is patient. Even though all these other ones are impatient, number 2 is a little bit more patient. Taurus can be patient, so he's got some patience, some impatience, right? He's got some emotion, but yet no emotion. So it's kind of a mixture here. Number 3, number 3 is also sociable and enthusiastic and optimistic. Okay, so he's got a little bit of that in his soul urge. So he was sociable enough, you know, to make happen whatever the hell he made happen. Versatile and adaptable, even though he's mostly fixed, just adds just a little bit of adaptability, a little bit of versatility. This adds a lot of versatility here. So this is why you got to look at numerology and astrology, because, you know, you see different levels of people based on both of them. What else can I say? Let me get into a couple of the other. Also, this is female. Okay, number 8 was female. Number 5 is male. Number 3 is male. Number 11 could go either way. So kind of balanced there. I think in the end he actually ends up a little bit more female, but especially with all the Venus he's got. But actually Libra is a male sign too, so it's hard to determine your gender plane that this guy's on. But so then you got number 2, 5, 11, and 2. This is his core numbers. Okay, you probably can't even see that, but oh well. 5, 11, and 2. His core numbers. Okay, interesting. Mercury. Okay, Libra, the Sun, the Moon, bunch of stuff there. Uranus, Saturn. Then 3, you got Jupiter. Number 2, you got the Moon. Whereas over here, he's actually Sun, Venus, Mercury dominant. So, yeah, interesting stuff. So again, 3 can have that air of superiority, think they're better than other people. They're not very patient. Let's start a whole new thing here and continue. This is going to be very comprehensive, folks. Okay? Okay, we're going to mention some of that 11 again, too, because there's some interesting stuff going on there. Let's keep these up here, I guess. 2 main numbers, number 3, or number 5 and 11. Where are we now? Let's do... First thing that I couldn't fit on that first one was, let's do his karma numbers, alright? So, his karma number is equal to a 0. Okay, he actually has no karma numbers, because even in this short ass name he has, you know, which I didn't mention his family. His family number is a number 9, which I'll talk about in relation to this right now. Okay, fam number. No karma numbers. Does that mean you have no karma? Not necessarily. Okay, if you look at astrology, his south node in where was his south node? His north node. Yeah, his south node was in Capricorn, and his north node was in Cancer. Okay, north node is considered kind of like karma and your weaknesses. Okay, what you need to develop. Cancer is nurturing. He lacks nurturing. Even though number 2 was nurturing, that was the main nurturing he had there. A lot of everything else kind of points to that he had no nurturing ability. Okay, having no water, he's not very nurturing. He's sensitive in the sense that he's sensitive to what other people say and think about him, but he's not sensitive to other people's needs and things like that in a lot of ways. So, you know, number 8 needs to be more sensitive to other people's feelings and needs. You know, he lacks nurturing in a lot of ways. But 0 karma numbers. 0 is a very interesting number, because 0, you can have the urge for suicide, which he actually killed himself, supposedly. Shot himself in the head when he finally, you know, realized that it was all over after he married Ava Braun, like at the very end in a little ceremony in his bunker hideout. 0 karma. Pure potential, nothingness. Okay, power and potential is that master number 11 too. Any master number, potential, power, a lot of potential. 0 is emptiness. It's nothingness. It's pure potential. It's wholeness. It's not a particular vibration, right? It's kind of empty. So you don't have any particular. In some ways, you're freed up to make progress in life in some ways and achieve what you want, because you don't have any karma numbers holding you back. You don't have any karmic debts to pay. You don't have any main vibrations that are weaknesses that are holding you back. But like I said, if you look into his astrology, you'll see a little bit there. But nothing really holding you back. You have ultimate freedom, and it's all about choice, ultimate choice. So you can choose to continue along in a positive way and learning about each number, because you're at the very beginning. This is the beginning, no ending, but it's also the beginning. Even though there's no beginning, no ending here, you also see no beginning, no ending with that number 8 we saw, because it's the infinity symbol turned upright, number 8, right? So no beginning, no ending, because it just keeps going round and around. You see that here, but you have to make a choice where you're going to go, and there's nothing really you could become apathetic maybe and indecisive, because there's nothing really urging you to like make a specific choice in life, and no like frustration that's like causing you to kind of compensate for that certain frustration. But he had all the other influences of his father and everything else, but kind of unlimited in some ways. But I find this interesting, the urge to suicide, because you want to, it's almost like, I've already been through all the numbers 1 through 9. You could be almost starting over, or this could be your last incarnation. And I also find it interesting that Schickel Gruber, which would have been his name, would have been a family number 1. And then his father changed it to Hitler, which is number 9. Between 9 and 1, because after 9 it starts over. The cycle starts over 1 through 9, and then goes 1 through 9, and then it goes 1 through 9. Between 1 and 9 is 0. So you have like this middle, like his father was like supposed to be a number 1 family number, but it turned him back to by choosing Hitler, he went back to the number 9. So they were oscillating almost between this 9 and this number 1 in this element of 0. This, am I gonna do positive things and and continue to not have any karma numbers, or because I'm almost like pure baby, I'm a baby, there's nothingness to me, Now I'm going to create all this karma through, it's like purity, you know, you're totally pure here. Nothing, you know, no problems, nothing. And then you live your life, and then you create all this karma. So maybe this is the beginning before the 1, and you create the 1, 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, the 6, the 7, the 8, the 9, whatever numbers that you were. Your karma are considered your weaknesses. So this, you could see that he has no weaknesses potentially, but it's not necessarily the case. You know, this life now, he's going to create all this karma for his next life that he's going to have, right? Because he has nothing there. Now, as he lives his life, he's going to maybe, you know, he could, he was a freaking dictator. He killed all these people. That's creating a shitload of karma, right? Karma number 8 probably, and you know, because he didn't use his power and his authority properly. That's number 8 karma. So I'm sure if he was born again in his next life, he would have number 8 as his karma number, among other numbers. Probably a whole bunch of karma numbers he'd have because he freaking did all these horrible things. So there's some weird stuff there, but Adolf Hitler Gruber, okay, is equal to, and this is a 2 and this is a 1, is equal to a number 3. If he was Adolf Hitler Gruber, his destiny would have been a number 3 instead of a number 11, which is number 11 in his case was unfairness and severe application of the law. And because number 11 is you have to live up to high standards and strict standards, you also enforce strict standards upon other people. Number 8 enforces strict standards upon other people. Ruthless, dictatorial, ego. Okay? Selfishness with number 8 sometimes. Selfishness with number 1. Independence, ego, assertiveness, aggressiveness with number 1. Domineering with number 1. But 3 would have changed something a little bit, maybe. So I find that interesting. He would have had more of that creativity, communication, intellect, possibly. Let's do his pinnacles, because that's interesting before I jump into everything else. This is going to be a long one, folks, so hopefully you're committed at this point. Okay? So you got 4, you got 2, you got 8, 6, 1, 7, and then you got 3. Okay? So he was 31 at this point. Age 0 to 31, he was a number 6. Yeah, according to some people, it depends on how you look at this stuff. So that was 1920 was the pinnacle of the number 6 energy. Okay, then you got 1929 when he was 40. And he was 49 here at this pinnacle. That was 1938. We're going to talk about some of the events in his life here. And then up here was 1947. 58 and onward. Alright, so this is interesting. Some of his life events here, okay? Six is service, it's harmony, it's duty, it's responsibility to your family, it's domesticated, it's family, home life, you know, it's creative, but the creativity is geared towards the home. It's babies, it's marriage, it's birth. Number 11 I see kind of like birth because it's a portal, it's a canal, birth canal. You know, you're being reborn at your Saturn return, birth. Number 6 is all that. Number 6 is ruled by Venus, okay? Venus is huge in his chart, okay? because of the Venus is his second most ruling planet. Okay, so he was an artist, right? Number 6. He was under the heavy influence of his home and family. Okay, because of his father and his mother. Then, and in 1920, at the pinnacle, the peak of this number 6 and the transition into this number 1, something happened. And it was on March 31st. The 31st, 31. Okay, March 31st. Okay. 3/31, 1920. He was discharged from the army. Okay. Then he had to strike out on his own. You know, I'm guessing probably, I don't know if maybe his dad died around this time. I'm not sure exactly when his father died. That could have created a transition too here. I'd have to look into that. But that was a major change. And then age 31 to 40, he was a number 1, right? He went out on his own. He ended up becoming homeless at some point. Worked as a laborer, trying to find himself, trying to express himself, trying to show that he's got authority. Ended up working for the German Workers' Party. Showed that he had potential in politics and that he was a decent, authoritative speaker and things. He wrote his book, My Struggle, Mein Kampf, I Will. Number 1 is I. It's I-centered. It's single-minded. Mein Kampf he wrote in this stage and published it in 1925. Okay. Again, this marker sucks. 1925, published Mein Kampf. Okay, that's interesting. And here's the real interesting stuff. Also, April 30th. Where am I? We'll talk about that in a minute. 1923 is when he attempted the coup in Munich to seize power that he was imprisoned for. The beer hall pushed. Okay, that was here. He attempted to seize power and authority. Number 1 is power, authority. It's will. I will. Okay, power and authority. He was attempting to seize it. Okay, it didn't happen. That was 1923 in this stage of the 1. Okay. Army discharge over here. And the artist. Then some big events happen in the number 7. Number 7 is introspective, it's spiritual, it's philosophical, it's rigid, it is rebellious, it is it likes to give advice, doesn't like to receive advice. It's higher education, it's the loner, it's independent. Number 1 is independent. But what's interesting that happened here, 1933, okay, in the number 7 pinnacle, because it's not 1929 to 1938 is number 7 influence that he's under. That's when he became chancellor, 1933, okay, when he was 43 years old. 43 equals a 7. Okay? 1933 also equals 7. If you add them up, equals 7. 1933 is a 7. He was 43. That's a 7. And this happened January 30th. Okay? 1/30. A lot of things happen on the 20 and the 30 for him. Whatever that's about. He did have some 2s and 3s in there. But January 30th, 1933, 1/30, 1933, is equal to, if you add that up, a number 11. His destiny was laid down. at this stage. Because 11 was his destiny number, and my destiny is to have a shitty marker. Number 11, his destiny number, was laid down right there in that pinnacle number 7. That's when he became chancellor. Okay. So, some 7, some 11. Okay. And this is when he started to enact all of his unfair, unjust, discrimination, and all that stuff for reals. Okay? I find that interesting. The date equals the number 11. The year is the number 7. His age is the number 7. Pinnacle number 7. Okay? The teacher, the learner, the researcher. Okay? Number 11 is the teacher. Number 11 is the inspirational speaker, the spiritual leader. Spiritual, number 7. He was really the Nuremberg rallies that he spoke at. These were like religious, cultish. Like these people were just led to the light of his speeches. You know, he was great at drawing people in, and he started off his speeches like very quiet and low. He didn't say anything for like the first minute or so to really build up anticipation. And then he would start off slow and formal, and then he would just rise to this passionate, like emotive, like crazed human that people was very different than the politicians of his time. And you got to understand too that this guy came out of a time after Germany was basically was made responsible for World War I, and they were completely devastated. Their economy, everything was like, so it was ripe for just chaos to ensue. And they were so desperate in that time period, Germany, that they obviously latched onto this guy that was like so zealous and and so different than the other politicians in a lot of ways, and was going to restore Germany's wealth and pride and strength and all that nonsense. And so yeah, interesting. And then April 30th, 1945, in the 3 pinnacle, 4/30, 1945, which is equal to a number 8. I'm sure you can't see anything anymore at this point. I don't know why I'm even using this thing, but number 8. Number 8, this is when he killed himself, supposedly. 4/30/1945. I think I wrote 47 here, but I meant to write 45. But it's equal to a number 8. Number 8 is death. It's Saturn. That's when he killed himself. Number 8. A lot of people die in December and January under the Capricorn, the sun being in Capricorn. It's death. It's limitation. It's coldness. The ultimate coldness is death. Okay, because your body's cold. When you die, there's no more warmth and circulating. Number 2 is warmth, his day number. He didn't have a lot of warmth though, this guy. So that's all about what happened in his life, his pinnacle, stuff like that. I also find it interesting that 1933, Freemason number 33. I find that number 33 is a master number. Okay, he became the master. He became the master number 11. In that year, right? Nazi is equal to a 33. The word Nazi, Holocaust, is equal to a number 33. You're talking about master numbers here. Swastika is equal to a number 22, another master number. The SS is equal to a number 11. Okay, another master number. Interesting. Crazy. This guy was a freaking freak of nature. Alright? We're almost done here. I'm going to go through a few more things to complete this comprehensive chart. And then we can get on with our life. Our lives. Okay? What else do we got here? Let me mention Moon in Capricorn. I mentioned Jupiter in Capricorn. We saw the number 8 with hiding emotions and hiding sensitivities. Moon in Capricorn does the same thing. Saturn in Leo, strong need for recognition, a strong need to lead and want to lead. He's the disciplinarian. Number 8 is discipline. Saturn in Leo Saturn in Leo has an inferiority complex, which makes you overcompensate. You saw that with the Sun in the 7th. Strong drive for power with Jupiter in Capricorn is ripe for politics and architecture and planning. Strong drive for power. Okay, you saw that with the number 8. Saw that with the double 8 too. Terrific speaker is Neptune and Gemini. Neptune and Gemini is these are the aspects he had in his astrology chart. And that means you could be a terrific speaker, and your mind is inclined toward fraud or deception. And you're also curious about the paranormal. Number 5, I didn't mention, very, very curious, very adventurous, travel, change, freedom. These guys are the arbiters of change. Hitler was pretty much the arbiter of change. Okay? He brought in changes. Granted, very negative changes. But then after he was done, all Germany changed, obviously. They realized, wow, what the hell did we just do? You know? And that history was never the same again. Change. Okay? 11, transition, change. Change in a big way with 11. Almost done here, folks. Almost done. AH. Sure you can't see that. Hopefully you can see something, though. 1 and 8. That's a 9. Balance number 9. Family number 9. Number 9 is the humanitarian. It's the end of the cycle. It's finishing. It's completion. It's could be your last incarnation, maybe. It's all the numbers. You've already been through all the other vibrations. It is service to mankind. It's duty. It's responsibility. You saw responsibility with the 8. Okay? You see duty and responsibility with all his astrology as well. Okay, maybe he felt called and responsible for the fate of Germany, fate of his people. Number 9 is balance number. Balance number is where you go to when you're out of balance. He comes back to that live for the service of Germany, whateverness. Okay, maturity number 7. We saw in his pinnacle when he became mature, when he became chancellor. Obviously, it took him a while to become mature, probably. Became a number 7. 7, maturity. I'm not even going to freaking write with this thing anymore. Maturity number 7. Rational thought number 4. Okay, how you think. Rational thought number is how you think. Number 4 is work, structure, organization. You're organized. Money, success, business. A lot like number 8. Very similar number to number 8. Okay? Detailed, practical, efficient, determined. Dictatorial in some ways. You know, rigid. Fixed mindset. Also, Third Reich is equal to a 66, another master number. The Führer, which he was called, which means leader, is equal to a number 4. So his rational thought number, the way he was thinking, Führer as a leader, number 4, the Führer. His subconscious self number is number 9. This is what is in your subconscious, what you're not conscious of, where your thoughts are kind of coming from sometimes, your fears, your blah, blah, blah. Number 9, humanitarian. Responsibility, harmony, duty. Ambition. Number 9 is also very ambitious and very idealistic. Number 9 can be over-idealistic and not have a good sense of reality. They can be crazy in some ways. Number 9 has the urge sometimes to suicide too, because they want to get off this physical realm. They've already been through all the freaking numbers. They're like, I'm done with life. It's almost like Pisces, like they're sacrificial. You know, they want to be careful with over-sacrificing. Number 7, when Hitler was at his peak, when he was chancellor, number 7 is ruled by Neptune. Neptune rules Pisces. Neptune is illusion, delusion. It's escapism. Okay? He deluded himself. He was deluding the people. The Germans eventually realized that Hitler was a traitor to his own people because he was portraying it like every politician. He was portraying himself to do this great thing for Germany, and then he just did all these atrocities, right? But I want to say also in the Nazi Party's like beliefs, every statement in their 25 like list of their 25 like tenets, it says for almost every one, we demand, we demand, we demand. Sun descendant people, they want to demand that respect because they're not getting it. They demand that you give them authority. He demanded that the Catholic Church recognize his greatness. You see in some of his astrology that there's unrecognized, a lot of his talents and his whatever he had went unnoticed or unrecognized. So he had to force and show people to recognize that he was powerful and that he was strong and capable and great and whatever. So we demand that ruthless war be waged against those who work to the injury of the common welfare. Okay, socialism. We demand ruthless. Number 8, personality we saw. Again. Last but not least, his challenges. Okay, his first challenge was a number 2. Okay, challenges are the things you're challenged by. Okay, first challenge, 27 years of his life. Number 2, second challenge was a number 6. Okay, his first challenge was to be cooperative and persuasive and emotionally balanced and deal with his low self-esteem. His second challenge was number 6, the harmony service, the family, domesticated, his half-niece, whatever, art. Third challenge is the main challenge that lasts the whole lifetime. His third challenge was a number 4, and then his fourth challenge was a number 4. So to lay the foundation, he was challenged to lay the foundation to build the architectural monuments to his Reich, and he was challenged by it, and he didn't achieve it. Maybe those challenges proved too great for him. That's most of it. I just want to tie up any loose ends I missed. Oh, I also wanted to mention his destiny number 11. Again, it's said that he was responsible in the Holocaust for 11 million deaths. There's different numbers. Some people say 20 million. But when we're talking about the Holocaust, it said 6 million Jews and then 5 million other people, which is an 11. 6 and 5 is 11. Other people, which include communists, homosexuals, degenerates, things of this nature. I find that fascinating. His destiny number 11 is destiny. He ended up killing responsible for 11 million deaths, 11 million people. That's just the concentration camp type stuff. As far as all the other soldiers he sent to war that died and everybody else that died as casualties of war, it's estimated in, a lot higher than 11 million. You're talking about probably 100 million people, maybe less, maybe more. But it's mostly said 11 million. So I find that fascinating, tragic. Again, this is not an attempt to show this guy as a great person, obviously. I'm just showing you that these were his talents, these were his detriments. Okay? A lot of the aspects in his astrology a lot of the planets are actually in fall positions or detriment positions. Okay? When a planet is in its fall or in its detriment, it's not in a sign that's beneficial to it. Okay, so I think what was it? The sun in the 7th is considered detrimental to the sun. the Jupiter in Capricorn, I'm pretty sure is considered Jupiter's in fall, in a fall position, in not in its full potential in Capricorn. I think Saturn in Leo is also in its detriment or fall. Moon in Capricorn, I think, is in its detriment or fall. So there's a lot fallen with this character, okay? This freaking Hitler. Okay. He was Yang or Yang dominant, which is action, spontaneous, more than he was Yin dominant. His primary elements were earth, fire, and air. 26% fire, 26% air, and then like 46% earth. Unusual fates are often linked to a predominance of angular houses. He has a predominance of angular houses in his chart. Unusual fates, okay? Master numbers, you could have unusual fates, right? His hidden passion numbers I didn't talk a lot about. Number 3 and 9. Number 3 is art, creativity, communication, speaking, writing, thinking, and creating. Number 3 is very, 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 very creative and scattered. They want to paint, they want to write, they want to sing, whatever, dance, whatever's creative. Number 5 is the actor I didn't mention also. Number 9 is hidden passion, his other hidden passion, service to all mankind. Number 9. Fanatical, number 9. Okay. So that's most of it, folks. The guy had, he imposed too heavily these high standards upon other people, this high horseness, this high ethical and moral standards, which is number 11, right? On other people, and it created injustice. He was overly severe. Okay? He was oversensitive. He couldn't handle, he was also, just on some other notes, he was vegetarian. He was, supposedly he had really bad gas all the time. Whatever you take out of that. Bully, forceful. Okay, the Force tarot card. Dogmatic convert. Anyway, I think I covered just about everything, folks. So, I hope you got a lot out of it. Hope you learned something about numerology. If you want a numerology chart, hit me up at collinchi@gmail.com. I do numerology charts, or if you want a numerology consultation, I will put a link below in the description, collinchi@gmail.com. Also, if you're interested in any numerology apparel or t-shirts, I have a website in the link below in the description of some t-shirts that I've created. If you really are fascinated and love numerology, I think it's amazing and interesting and ancient wisdom that gives us self-awareness. So, brought you guys another topic on self-awareness and psychology. I see astrology and numerology as deep psychology and philosophy and personality typing. So hopefully give you a portrait of this guy's character, which this is kind of like how a chart would go for you. This is really like 2 charts in one, because this is like all the numbers for the most part. I offer about 3 different charts. So hit me up, collinchi@gmail.com. Hope you enjoyed it as always. And as always, rise.